Let me remind people that the evidence here with respect to narcotics and the private aid network or the Contras is cumulative, and that what we have heard here this morning is not the beginning. Previously, this committee has heard testimony from General Paul Gorman, the United States Army Southern Commander at one period of time, who said in his testimony, quote, "There were fairly sizable marijuana operations on the southern front of Nicaragua, some involving the Contras, some not." Mr. Gorman noted that if one wants to organize an armed resistance or an armed undertaking for any purpose, the easy place to get the money and the easier places to get the guns are in the drug world. That was by way of introduction to the problem. We have had testimony from Jose Blandón in the course of his testimony on Noriega. And Mr. Blandón testified to the shipment of cocaine from the, quote, Cali cartel that was diverted to the farm of John Hull. We've heard further testimony regarding that here this morning. Mr. Blandón also testified that Sebastian Gonzalez, who was a Contra working with Eden Pastora on the southern front, became a drug smuggler. In addition, we heard from Noriega's former pilot, Floyd Carlton, who is now convicted on federal drug charges. He is in the Witness Federal Protection Program, and he testified to Alfredo Caballero's involvement in helping the Contras and narcotics trafficking. He also confirmed the Cali cartel story with respect to Mr. John Hull. In addition, we've heard from Ramon Milian Rodriguez in considerable detail about his involvement with Mr. George Morales with his setting up the laundering of money and so forth. There is other evidence in addition to that, but I simply want the record to show the cumulative aspects of what has been building here. At this point in time, we're going to look at 3 videotaped depositions, and we're only going to see a portion of them. On October 30th of last year, I traveled to Costa Rica with members of my personal staff and the Foreign Relations Committee staff, including Jack Blum, Special Counsel to the Committee. On Saturday, the 31st of October, we conducted depositions of 3 Nicaraguans living in exile: Octaviano Cesar, Marcus Aguado, and Carol Prado. These 3 individuals were all members of ARDE, the Contra force commanded by Eden Pastora that operated in the southern part of Nicaragua from 1982 to 1986. Octaviano Cesar, is the brother of Alfredo Cesar, who is one of the current 7-men directorship of the main Contra organization. We videoed those depositions, each of which was about 3 hours long. The depositions were given under oath. Each person discussed a wide range of issues, ranging from the funding of ARDE to weapons shipments to drug trafficking. Cesar, Aguado, and Prado will all corroborate certain portions of testimony that you have heard thus far. These are, as I said, edited segments. The story that they tell is a very complicated one, as some have learned that all of this is complicated. We've tried to simplify it as much as possible by dividing the video into 4 segments, each segment approximately 10 minutes long. After each segment, I'll give a brief narration which I hope clarifies the chain of events as they unfold. While these tapes do tell a clear story that documents some of the allegations made, there are some contradictions. For example, each of the witnesses denied personally smuggling narcotics, and 2 out of the 3 point their fingers at one of the other as a smuggler. We will be making copies of this edited videotape available to broadcast media after the hearing, and in addition, the full 9 hours of video deposition will be made available for anybody who wishes to see them. My staff has tried to create a tape that shows the contradictions as well as the other portions so that these are balanced. And in the first segment, you will simply be introduced to the individuals and learn what their role was in the Southern Front organization. If we could begin the tape. This is Senator Kerry, and we are going to take a deposition of Mr. Octaviano Cesar here in San Jose, Costa Rica. And I'd like to ask Ms. Leslie Rowe, who is a consul here in San Jose, who is empowered to deliver an oath, to do so to our witness. Thank you.
Cesar, could you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, in answer to the several interrogatories and cross-interrogatories now to be put to you?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Prado, do you solemnly swear or affirm that you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, in answer to the several interrogatories and cross-interrogatories now to be put to you?
Yes, well.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, in answer to the several interrogatories and cross-interrogatories now to be put to you?
¿Jura o afirma usted solemnemente que dirá la verdad, toda la verdad y nada más que la verdad en respuesta a los diversos interrogatorios y contrainterrogatorios que se le formularán a usted ahora?
Juro.
At some time, though, you became the head, so to speak, of the Southern Front Air Force. Is that correct?
Pero en algún momento usted se convirtió en el jefe del Frente del Sur, de la Fuerza Aérea del Frente del Sur.
Me convertí en el jefe de la Fuerza Aérea del Sur y en los últimos tiempos llegué a ser el segundo del comandante en Pastora.
I became the head of the Southern Air Force, and then I became the second in command within Pastora.
Did you become involved in the effort to change the government of Nicaragua in 1978, 79?
Yes, sir, I did.
Do you want to describe that a little bit for us?
Well, I began working against Somoza in 1977. Mainly, I was plotting with some of the National Guard's officers, because my criteria was that the best outcome would have been to topple Somoza and create the sort of national unity opposition with the political parties and some of the National Guardsmen officers, which not all of them were bad. And in that case, we would have closed the door to the communist takeover. And even during the fighting in 1979, which I was in Costa Rica here in the Southern Front, I kept that purpose, criteria, and I did plot with many of the officers, and up to a point in which I arranged a ceasefire 5 days before Somoza left in the commandos of Somoto and Ocotal, in order to have those people going to the negotiating table. Unfortunately, I really don't know what happened, but well, that's history, you know. Instead of having that dialogue, Sandinistas took over, which something they didn't expect, really.
Now, in 1982, you left Nicaragua because you were dissatisfied with the Sandinista regime.
Usted dejó Nicaragua en 1982 porque no estaba satisfecho.
Bueno, primero que todo, no con el régimen sandinista, nosotros siempre aclaramos eso, sino con el régimen marxista-leninista, porque ellos no son sandinistas.
Not with the Sandinista regime, we always clarify that, but with the Marxist-Leninist regime, because they are not sandinistas.
Porque nosotros creemos en los ideales de Sandino y no podemos aceptar que ellos sean sandinistas.
We believe in the ideals of Sandino and we cannot accept that they are sandinistas.
Básicamente sí, en 1982, cuando la Guardia Nacional de Nicaragua voló unos puentes en el norte de Nicaragua.
Basically, yes, in 1982, when the National Guard in Nicaragua blew up some bridges in the northern part of Nicaragua.
Y el régimen de Managua endureció su posición.
And the Managua regime hardened their position.
Yo tomé el camino al exilio cuando vi también el problema con los mosquitos.
I went on exile when I saw the problem with the mosquitoes.
Vi la posibilidad de una guerra que era una guerra que yo no quería para mis hijos.
I saw the possibility of war, which I didn't want for my children.
No quería que ellos pelearan por algo en lo que ellos no creían.
I didn't want them to fight for something that they did not believe in.
Y vine a Costa Rica.
And I came to Costa Rica.
A ver a mi familia que yo le había sacado de Nicaragua un par de meses antes.
To see my family, which I had taken out of Nicaragua a few months previous.
Conversé aquí a través de unos amigos con Edén Pastora.
And through some friends here, I talked with Edén Pastora.
Y él me ofreció integrarme a un movimiento para salvar esa revolución.
And he offered me the possibility of getting involved in a movement to save the revolution.
No para hacer contrarrevolución.
Not to do the counter-revolution.
Porque yo creo que en Nicaragua era necesaria una revolución.
Because I believe in Nicaragua it was necessary to have a revolution.
Well, I appreciate the distinction that you drew, and I think it's a good distinction. You became the chief of logistics, really, for the Southern Front, isn't that correct?
No exactamente.
Not exactly.
Yo comencé a trabajar con el FRS de Pastora en el 82 como encargado de comunicaciones.
I started to work for the FRS for then Pastora in 82 as person in charge of communications.
Posteriormente, aproximadamente en octubre de 82,
In about October of 82,
cuando hubo presiones sobre Pastora por parte del señor Alfonso Robelo, que era su compañero en Arde,
when Pastora was receiving pressure on the part of Robelo, who was his colleague in Arde,
para que pusiera un ejecutivo,
as to
un ayudante ejecutivo.
placing an assistant, an executive.
Pastora me escogió a mí
Pastora chose me,
y desde entonces pues trabajé prácticamente hasta el momento que todavía estoy con él en ese tarea, digamos.
and since then, till now, I have been working with him in that endeavor.
Was it fair to say that you were in charge of the records, the resupply,
This is Carol Prado
and
for your
organizational skills that the Southern Front needed?
Sí, se podría decir eso, porque yo era prácticamente la liga de Pastora con cada uno de los distintos sectores, tanto políticos como militares, en que estaba formado Arde.
You could say that I was the link, you could say, between Pastora and the other sectors that were connected to it, political and military.
Y también la liga entre Pastora y el mundo exterior, digamos, gente de los Estados Unidos o de Venezuela, o cualquiera que quería trabajar o acercarse a Pastora, pues pasaba a través mío.
Also the link between Pastora and the outside world, the United States or Venezuela, or anyone in the outside that wanted to be in contact with Pastora, then would have to do it through me.
Segment 2, in the next segment, that was simply an introduction to each of them, to their roles. The next segment, you'll hear how George Morales, the narcotics trafficker, became a benefactor of the Southern Front. After the May 30th La Penca bombing and the cutoff of U.S. aid, Arde was very short of funds and was disintegrating. Marta Healy, whom we've heard about from Gary Betzner, the pilot, was an acquaintance of Cesar, and she told Cesar and Mr. Popo Chamorro that George Morales, wanted to donate an airplane and cash to Pastora on the Southern Front. So Cesar flew back to Costa Rica, informed Pastora of that, and Pastora instructed Cesar to look into the offer, and he flew with Popo Chamorro and Marcus Aguado to Miami. In November, or sometime in that vicinity, Chamorro, Cesar, and Prado met with Morales at the house of Marta Healy. He offered to donate a plane and the Southern Front Contras at that time were in need of hardware and funds. An arrangement was made to obtain the plane, which was in Haiti. In order to deliver the plane from Haiti to El Salvador, Morales recommended a pilot, that the pilot be Aguado. Cesar was later informed that a plane did arrive at Ilopango Air Base, and it was used to ferry ammunition to La Penca Airport. Octaviano Cesar and Marcus Aguado also describe a trip to the Bahamas with George Morales, and on their return, Morales asked Cesar to bring several $100,000 through customs for him, and you will hear directly how some of this money was laundered. Segment 2, please.
Between Pastora and the outside world, the United States or Venezuela or anyone in the outside that wanted to be in contact.
That's Carol Prado.
To do it through me.
Now, sometime during that period that you were working with Pastora, you came to meet Mr. George Morales.
Sí, es correcto, exactamente en este mismo hotel.
That is correct, exactly here in this hotel.
Would you state the circumstances of that?
Bueno, me voy a extender un poquito porque es muy interesante y
I will be extensive because it's quite interesting.
Y es parte de todo un proceso.
And it's a part of a whole process.
Después del atentado contra Pastora de la Penca del 30 de mayo del 84.
After the plot against Pastora in La Penca on May 30 of 1984.
Y el corte de la ayuda norteamericana que ocurrió ese mismo día.
And the cutoff of the North American aid, which took place that same day.
Arde entró en un proceso de falta de fondos.
Arde then initiated a lack of funds process.
Y de una cierta desintegración por la ida de Robelo, la ida del Negro Chamorro.
And some disintegration because of Robelo and Negro Chamorro leaving.
A unirse con el FDN.
To join the FDN.
Como consecuencia de esa gente que se fue el segundo de Pastora que se llamaba Harold Martínez.
And due to the fact that these two people left, the second man for Pastora, which was Harold Martínez, left also.
Después de una reunión en el Río San Juan de todos los comandantes de Pastora, se eligió segundo comandante a Popo Chamorro.
After a meeting at después de una reunión
en el Río San Juan.
En el Río San Juan. After a meeting at the San Juan River, then the second in command was named.
Adolfo Popo Chamorro.
Adolfo Popo Chamorro.
Al mismo tiempo se aproximaron a Pastora la gente de Alfredo y Octaviano César.
And at the same time, Pastora was approached by
Octaviano y Alfredo César como nuevos aliados políticos.
As new political allies.
Como consecuencia de la falta de fondos,
due to the lack of funds,
se decidió que el señor Chamorro fuera a los Estados Unidos con el señor César.
It was decided that Mr. Chamorro should go to the United States with Mr. César.
A buscar fondos.
To look for funds.
Eso puede haber sido aproximadamente en el mes de agosto-septiembre del 84.
That could have been more or less August, September 1984.
Después que el señor Pastora regresó de Washington, donde se había cortado totalmente los lazos con la Central de Inteligencia Americana.
Where Pastora came back from Washington, a trip where all the aid from the Central Intelligence Agency was cut off.
Luego de ese viaje del señor César y el señor Chamorro,
after that trip, Mr. Chamorro,
ellos regresaron como unos 15 o 20 días después.
They returned about 15 or 20 days later.
Con la noticia de que habían conseguido ayuda.
With the news that they had gotten help or aid.
Como decía Popo Chamorro, él regresaba con el pan bajo el brazo.
As Popo Chamorro said that he was coming back, and this is a Spanish expression, with a loaf of bread under his arm.
Cosa que a nosotros nos alegró mucho.
After coming from where?
Después de regresar de dónde?
From Miami.
From Miami.
Who came back? Popo Chamorro?
Octaviano César.
Octaviano César.
Ole. Ellos nos reunieron a nosotros y nos enseñaron unas fotos
They got us together and they showed us some
de
photographs.
un avión.
Who is us?
¿Quién es nosotros?
Tito Chamorro, Carol Prado, Sergio Argüello, Miguel Urró, que éramos, digamos, el resto de los cuadros principales de Arde.
Which was the rest of the main cadres of Arde.
Nos enseñaron, yo voy a tratar cuando use pronombres de decir los nombres mejor.
He's going to try to use the names rather than the pronouns from now on.
Entonces nos enseñaron una foto a los que estábamos ahí de un avión Howard y un avión DC-4.
So they showed us some photographs of a Howard plane and a DC-4.
Nos dijeron que esos aviones se los habían regalado y que nos iban a regalar 6 aviones adicionales Navajo Panther.
And they said that these planes had been given to us, and that the 6 additional planes were going to be given to us. Navajo
Panther.
Navajo.
Yo no sé mucho de aviones, pero sé que son unos aviones muy rápidos y de largo alcance.
I know that, I don't know much about airplanes, but I know that they're very fast airplanes and long-range airplanes.
Did they say who was going to give them, where they were coming from?
¿Dijeron quién se los iba a dar o de dónde venían?
Sí, dijeron que tenían que a través de la esposa anterior de Popo Chamorro, la esposa número 1 de Popo Chamorro,
They said that through wife number 1 of Popo Chamorro,
que también es la esposa número 2 porque se divorció y se casó con ella otra vez.
which is, she's also wife number 2 because he divorced her and remarried her.
Are we talking about Marta Healy?
Bueno,
¿Estás hablando de Marta Healy?
sí, yo la conozco como Marta Reyes.
I know her as Marta Reyes.
And do you also know that she is Martha Healy, who lives in Miami?
Sí,
Marta Healy, which was Adolfo Chamorro's former wife and an old friend of mine for more than 20 years. She told me that somebody she knew wanted to contribute with the anti-communist cause and was willing to give a C-46 airplane and some cash to Pastora.
She told you that here at a meeting in...
No, she told me that in Miami.
In Miami?
Yes.
You were there on business at the time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. She volunteered this information to you?
That's right. She came forward with that. I returned to Costa Rica. I told Pastor about it, and that he asked me to pursue this matter, and I went with Popo Chamorro back to Miami.
Did she tell you the name of the person at that time?
Yes, she did.
What was the name?
George Morales.
Okay. Did you know who George Morales was?
No, sir.
Had you ever met him?
No, sir.
Okay.
I went back to Miami with Popo, and I met Morales at Marta's house. He showed me.
Do you recall approximately when that was?
I think it was around November 1984.
1984.
I think so. Anyway, he confirmed the offer and showed me the picture of the airplane, C-46 or DC-3, you know, they look very similar.
Could you be a little more specific? I mean, what were the circumstances? You walked into the house, who was there?
He was there.
Anybody else?
Marta,
Anyone else?
Popo Chamorro, myself.
Just the four of you?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you went there with what purpose in mind?
Purpose of meeting this person who was willing to give this airplane. At the time, the troops here, the aid was cut off, and the troops in the field, although I knew that Arde had some ammo in El Salvador, storage there, they didn't have any way to bring it over to the fighting area. That was the total purpose of it.
So you told Popo Chamorro that the opportunity was there to get a hold of an airplane,
No, I
and
told
that this could
Pastora.
be very helpful. You told Pastora.
Pastora asked Popo and myself to go and pursue the matter.
Fine. How was the matter brought up in the meeting when you first met?
He came forward and said, listen, I'm an anti-communist. I believe in the fighting against the Sandinistas. I have this airplane in Haiti, which I'm not using it. I cannot bring it to the state because it doesn't meet the FAA requirements. But we can make arrangements so you can fly that airplane back to El Salvador.
Had you learned anything about George Morales at that time?
No, sir.
Did Marta Healy tell you anything about him?
No, sir.
Did you know anything about his background?
No, sir.
Were you curious about it?
Of course.
Did you take any steps to find out anything about his background?
Yes, I did.
What did you do?
I spoke to Marta and I told her, who is this person? And that she told me who it was.
And what did she say?
She didn't say that he was a drug trafficker. She says that he was a businessman, that he had an airplane business in Opaloca, that he was a world champion of boat racing, and that she thought he was involved in funny business.
Funny business?
Yes, sir.
She described it?
Yes, sir.
Did you know what funny business meant?
I guessed it, yes, sir.
And what did you guess it meant?
I guessed that he was a crook.
And did you know in what form?
No, but
Well, what did you think at that time? Did you think he was doing drugs? Do you think he was embezzling money from banks? Did you think he was robbing banks?
No,
what kind of crook did you think
I
he
thought
was?
he could be doing drugs. Yes.
Okay.
Sir.
And did you and Popo Chamorro discuss that at that time?
Yes, we did. And that prior to that, Pastora, I said publicly that he had received a couple of helicopters from drug traffickers. May I? I'm not proud of having had this type of relationship. But the circumstances there, and because in all the conversation that I was present, he never preconditioned any type of business with him.
Tell me about the circumstances. You felt at that time that the cause was in such need that it was important to get the products you needed. Is that correct?
Yes, the troops, they didn't have boots. They were running barefoot, hardly had any clothes, didn't have medicine, didn't have enough ammunition to fight. The Sandinistas, they were putting up a big offensive. They were young kids and they were going to get killed. Simple as that. I mean, these people, they went into a war because they love freedom and because the U.S. Congress gave them the means to do so.
Okay. At that time, what arrangement did you make with Mr. Morales?
The only precondition he asked was a meeting with Pastora. Also,
did he say where the meeting had to take place?
No, he would say it was at Pastora's disposal. We came back, told Pastor about it.
Before you do that, was any final arrangement made with respect to the C-46?
Just in principle, just that he was going to, give that plane and he was going to give cash to Pastora. And that then he needed a pilot.
Was there any doubt in your mind where the plane had come from?
He said it was in Haiti. I didn't have any idea.
And the cash, did you know at that time the cash was the result of drug transactions?
Well, he had a combination of drug business and legitimate business.
What was the next step at that point?
Next step, Marcos Aguado went with Popo Chamorro to Miami. I arrived about a week later. And they picked me up at the airport, Morales, Chamorro, and Aguado. We went to the Opaloca airport and stayed at his office, Morales' office. He has several airplanes there.
This is when?
About a month later.
1984?
Yes,
okay.
At the end of 1984. Anyway, at the office, we discussed the technical part of flying that airplane. I mean, they did, I'm not a pilot. And that how the airplane needed a little bit of adjustment, and et cetera, and where it was going to be flown. Marcos Aguado said that he had made arrangement that plane to be flown into the Ilopango military air base in El Salvador, and that he was going to fly it. Then Morales said, I want to try you out. And he said, why don't we go to the Bahamas? 4 of us, and another pilot, his pilot. And so we can try the skills of Marcos Aguado. We did so. We went to Bimini, and that it was about noontime, close to noontime. And we went to Bimini, and we returned the same day from Bimini. We went to, I remember, a bar where Hemingway used to go there. I remember those.
Let me just interrupt you there if I can for 1 minute. Was there a discussion in Miami prior to that about transferring funds, making arrangements for the transfer of funds?
No, sir.
Okay, do you recall any discussions about funds at that time?
Well, in general, that we needed not only the plane, but because we didn't even have money just to pay for the fuel on the plane.
So you were still pushing for cash?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. You were saying you went to Bimini, you went to the bar that was frequented by Hemingway?
That's right. And
go ahead. No, I'm waiting.
On the return, about 15 minutes before landing, he pulled out some checks and asked Popo Chamorro and myself, I said, listen, I'm going to give this money to Pastora. Now, I need for you to declare in U.S. Customs this check. Being a businessman, it might sound ridiculous or stupid, but at that moment I was not acting as a businessman. I was really trying to convince this person to give some aid. And that's the truth. I mean,
and the check that he pulled out was a check for $400,000? Or checks totaling $400,000?
I didn't count it, and that's the honest truth, sir. Okay. I know there were several $100,000.
You knew it was a significant sum of money?
Oh, yes. A significant sum of money.
And it was cash?
I didn't see any cash.
No, I mean, it was going to be cash through the transaction that was taking place.
Right.
And you knew that, well, go ahead.
We landed at Opaloca, went through immigration.
Let me be more clear now. What he was asking you to do was effectively take this money through customs for him, correct?
Well, you could say that it was, the way he put it, is to take this money through customs for Pastora.
Okay. But the money at that time was coming from Morales?
Yes. Yes,
and you were taking custody of it in order to put it through the customs process?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you knew at that time that the money was coming from Mr. Morales, a drug trafficker?
Well, he didn't say that. I know it was coming from him.
But you knew that?
By the time I knew that he was involved in drug trafficking, yes, sir.
All right. What was and when you landed, what happened?
We went through immigration and customs. I filled out an application form, and we were out in 15 minutes.
Okay, well, let me show you this and
mostrarle esto.
Ask if you recognize this as a
Marcus Aguado.
Y a ver si reconoce esto.
customs form.
Okay. Yo le dije antes de que no recordaba yo la presencia de Octaviano en el viaje. Ahora que lo veo, sí, porque yo iba con el piloto adelante y ellos tres iban atrás. Es cierto.
Okay. Do you recall whether or not in the course of that trip some checks exchanged hands?
¿Usted recuerda si en ese viaje, durante ese viaje, hubo un intercambio de cheques?
Sí, cuando regresamos, no intercambio de que si Morales le dio uno o César le dio otro o Chamorro le dio otro.
Yes, not exchange in that César or Chamorro or Morales gave a check.
Pero sí recuerdo que cuando regresamos, el señor Morales le pidió a Chamorro de que le ingresara una cantidad de dinero a los Estados Unidos, a la aduana de los Estados Unidos, y lo registraron.
El señor Morales, perdón, le pidió
el favor a Chamorro.
But I do remember that on the way back, Mr. Morales asked Chamorro to introduce some money into the United States.
Supuestamente, creo yo, era para ayuda, para comprar uniformes, botas o algunas cosas, ¿verdad?, que se necesitaban en ese momento.
I assume that it was to help buy boots and uniforms and that kind of aid that was needed at that time.
Pero nunca vi el dinero.
But I never saw the money.
Creo que regresó a manos de Morales.
I think that it went back to Morales' hands.
Did he see the checks?
¿Usted vio los cheques?
No.
No.
Okay, well, how do you know about this transaction?
¿Cómo sabe usted de esa transacción?
Iba adelante en la cabina con el piloto platicando del avión, del range del avión.
I was up front with the pilot talking to him about the airplane and the range of the airplane.
Y uno va sin querer oyendo lo que está sucediendo.
And without wanting to, you hear what's going on.
En ese momento, sin poner mucha atención,
At that time, without paying too much attention,
porque también yo pensaba
because I
de
also
que este
thought-
señor Morales era una tabla de salvación para el movimiento anticomunista que estaba en el sur.
Because I thought also at that time that Mr. Morales was a bridge of salvation for the anti-communist movement in the South.
Why did you think that?
¿Qué piensa usted de eso?
Alguien que regala un avión que
Someone who gives an airplane,
a mí en lo personal no me pide nada a cambio.
who's not asking me for anything in exchange for that person.
Cuando logramos hablar un poco más él y yo, me dijo si quería trabajar con él.
When we talked a little bit more, he and I, he asked me if I wanted to work with him.
Le dije que no, que tenía una trayectoria política en mi país y una trayectoria militar y que mi condición no me permitía hacer nada de eso, que le agradecía la confianza que había depositado en mí.
I said that my political and military trajectory in my country didn't allow me to do that, but I appreciated the confidence or the trust that he had placed on me.
Me felicitó por la respuesta que le di
He congratulated me for that answer,
y me regaló $500 para los días que estuve en Miami para que me ayudara con mis gastos.
and he gave me $500 so that I could pay my expenses in Miami during those 5 days I was there.
Did you have occasion to say to someone in the CIA that
Octaviano
Morales was
Cesar.
helping and you were getting money from him, and you were concerned about that because you knew he was a drug dealer? Did you pass that information on to somebody?
Yes, I passed the information about the, not the relation, because it wasn't, well, you might call it the relation, and the airplane, yes. And of course, I mean, the CIA people and the American military attaches, they were based at Ilopango also. And, you know, I mean, any person or any plane landing there, they have to know where it came from or whatever.
And they basically said to you that it was all right as long as you don't deal in the powder. Is that correct? Is that a fair quote?
Yes.
Now, at what point in time did you learn that Mr. Morales also was involved with drugs?
¿En qué momento
Marcos
supo usted
Aguado.
que el señor Morales también estaba vinculado a las drogas?
Cuando me ofreció trabajo,
When he offered me work.
And that was during your first trip to Miami.
Y eso fue durante su primer viaje a Miami.
la única vez que lo conocí en Miami.
The only time I met him or knew him in Miami.
Can you describe that conversation to us? How did you find out that it was drugs that he wanted you to work at?
¿Puede describir esa conversación? ¿Cómo supo usted que era drogas lo que él quería que usted trabajara?
Dejó entrever de que él trabajaba con marihuana,
He let it be understood that he worked with marijuana,
que producía mucho dinero y que él tenía una organización bien segura.
that he produced a lot of money and that he had a very safe organization.
Now, none of the three individuals testifying were aware of the Morales weapons deals, but all three had knowledge of weapons shipments generally to the Southern Front. For instance, Aguado stated that he only moved weapons from an unnamed third country. All three of them provided information about the supply process for the Contras, and according to Prado, Popo Chamorro and Octaviano Cesar brought $50,000 with them from Morales on another occasion to cover support for the troops. Prado was in charge of the resupply operations, and he was Pastora's link to the outside world. He describes how before the La Penca bombing, John Hull's ranch was used as a primary site for that resupply effort. Now, there's nothing surprising about weapons and supplies being shipped to the Contras. That's been documented before on many occasions, and there was a period where one part of the network was well known.
What is significant at the end of this next segment is the point that Aguado confirms, which we have stated again and again, which is that many of the same connections, airstrips, and people used in the delivery of weapons were also used in the delivery of drugs.
How did you find out that it was drugs that he wanted you to work at?
Marcus Aguado, and this is the end of the last segment. I'm sorry, but it respins on us here, and there's no way to cue it.
Dejó entrever de que él trabajaba con marihuana,
He let it be understood that he worked with marijuana,
que producía mucho dinero y que él tenía una organización bien segura.
that he produced a lot of money, and that he had a very safe organization.
My apologies for that. We're struggling with the technology here. Now, also, did you not arrange a number of flights for the transport of weapons with Mr. Morales?
¿Usted hizo arreglos para varios vuelos para transportar armas para el señor Morales?
Nunca. Cuando el señor Morales Pavas,
I never rented it. I never flew it. I did see the airplane at the Pavas airport here.
But it never
Do you
came.
know of any weapons shipments that were arranged, or any other kinds of shipments arranged by Mr. Morales?
No. Lo único que supe fue sobre dinero.
All I knew was about what I did know about was money.
El señor Octaviano César y el señor Chamorro,
Mr. Octaviano César and Mr. Chamorro,
en el primer viaje que vinieron,
in the first trip when they came,
trajeron con ellos $50,000.
brought with them $50,000.
Who brought the 50,000?
Ellos dijeron que se los había dado el señor Morales, el benefactor.
They said that it had been given by Mr. Morales, the benefactor,
Who said that?
Popo Chamorro.
Popo Chamorro. That was all.
Now, to your knowledge, were weapons shipments arranged from Miami to support the activities on the southern front?
¿Sabe usted de que se hayan hecho viajes de armas desde Miami para apoyar las actividades en el frente sur?
vea, con los maratones y la falta de ayuda del gobierno americano y la presencia del comandante Pastora en Miami,
With the marathons and the lack of support of the U.S. government in the presence of Commander Pastor in Miami,
y conferencias de prensa que daba abiertas al mundo entero,
and press conferences, open press conferences, which he gave to the whole world,
le regalaban carabinas M130,
they gave him M130,
AR-15
R-15,
y algunas municiones que se venden en los gun shops de Miami.
and some ammunition that's sold at the gun shops in Miami.
Una de las veces muchos uniformes, 3.000 uniformes, 3.000 pares de botas,
Once a large number of uniforms, 3,000 uniforms, 3,000 pairs of boots,
y él las trajo personalmente con Adolfo Chamorro y creo que con Carol Prado
and he
también.
brought them personally, I think, with Adolfo Chamorro and I think Carol Prado too.
Es correcto.
Do you recall what airline or what aircraft brought the guns you talked about from the Florida gun stores?
¿Usted recuerda qué
Or was that
aerolínea
your
o
aircraft?
qué aeronave trajo las armas y municiones de las tiendas de Florida o fue el avión de ustedes?
No, fue en el avión donde venían los 3.000 uniformes y los 3.000 pares de botas.
No, it was on the airplane on which the 3,000 uniforms and 3,000 pairs of boots were brought.
Un avión del señor Sarki.
A plane which belonged to Mr. Saki.
No creo que haya sido ninguna arma de guerra del gobierno de los Estados Unidos.
I don't think it was any war weapon of the government of the United States.
Carabinas y AR-15.
Sarki Sarkinelli, an indicted arms
Very few.
trafficker. Well, now, do you personally recall flying a C-47?
¿Recuerda usted
With those
personalmente
weapons?
haber volado un C-47 con esas armas?
Probablemente sí.
Probably, yes.
Era el único avión que había.
It was the only plane available,
The C-47.
el C-47.
Ujú.
And where did you fly that from?
¿Y de dónde lo voló?
de un país centroamericano a la pista de La Penca en Nicaragua.
From a Central American country to the La Penca landing strip in Nicaragua.
Do you recall when that would have been?
¿Recuerda cuándo ocurrió eso?
Probablemente después de entre octubre y diciembre del 84.
Probably between October and December 1984.
Did you continue to fly those flights into 1985?
¿Continuó usted haciendo estos vuelos en 1985?
Es correcto, hasta principios del 86, donde ya no teníamos nada en absoluto que acarrear.
Yes, until early 1986, when we no longer had anything at all to carry.
Okay. Popo Chamorro, as second in command from Pastora, took over all the arrangements and everything.
What was the sequence of events? You landed in Miami.
Yes.
When was that plane then dispatched to Ilopango? Octaviano Cesar.
I don't know. I never saw the plane myself. Never seen the plane. I know that the plane arrived in Ilopango sometime later.
How did you know that?
Because Popo Chamorro told me, and Tito Chamorro, and then I met Marcos Aguado after he had returned from the trip.
Do you know who made the arrangements for this plane to go to Ilopango?
No, sir.
Excuse me, just a minute. Which plane are we talking about here? The C-46?
That's my understanding, yes.
Now, was there another aircraft that wound up going from Morales to Ilopango?
I don't know about it.
You only are aware of the C-46?
And that's the only one that I saw him in a picture. I saw the plane in a picture, never seen it, really. And I heard her say that the plane was ferrying ammo from Ilopango into the airfield of La Penca, which is in the northern part of the Rio San Juan, that at the time was held by Pastora. Never saw the plane because I was not involved into that part, into those areas, so we went over there.
Do you have any knowledge of how the arrangements were made for that plane to land at Ilopango?
No, sir.
Okay. You only know that it did?
Yes.
On a previous flight,
en un vuelo anterior, previo,
John Hull planned a weapons delivery with you, correct?
el señor John Hall planeó una entrega de armas con usted, ¿es correcto?
Mucho antes de mayo del 84.
Way before May 84.
When approximately, could you tell us?
¿Aproximadamente cuándo?
Todo el 83
All of 83
y primeros meses del 84.
in the first few months of 84.
Okay. Do you know of other flights that took place in which either money came in or weapons?
No.
Well, you know of weapons that were arranged at John Hull's farm.
Posiblemente, yo recuerdo vuelo antes de La Penca, o sea, con el señor John Hall.
I remember flights before La Penca with Mr. John Hall.
Hay una frontera que es La Penca.
There is a border which is La Penca.
Antes de La Penca era un John Hall con nosotros, simpático, colaborador, entusiasta.
Before La Penca, John Hall was very cooperative with us, and he was very nice to us.
Después de La Penca fue todo lo contrario.
And after La Penca, it was quite the contrary.
Antes de La Penca sí había vuelo de El Salvador a la finca de John Hall.
Before La Penca, there were flights from El Salvador
para nosotros,
to the John Hall's farm.
Para la gente pastora,
for
digamos.
us, for pastoras people.
With weapons?
¿Perdón?
With weapons.
Con armas, sí.
With weapons.
And now we come to the very last segment. And in the last segment, the three of them discuss the question of drug trafficking. According to Aguado, drug traffickers took advantage of the anti-communist sentiment throughout most of Central America. He admits that narco dollars provided easy, quick money for the troops' dire needs. Aguado also implies that Geraldo Duran, whose name incidentally has been mentioned previously in testimony here, who was a Contra pilot, was involved in drug trafficking. Carol Prado states that drug money was used to support the Contra troops. He also maintains that Geraldo Duran was a drug pilot, and he mentions Jose Angel Guerra as a pilot for the cartel. Prado testifies that before the La Penca bombing, John Hull's ranch may have been used as a drug transit base. Cesar admits that he knew drug money was supporting the Contras and that while he wasn't proud of it, the Contras were desperate. He also makes the point that numerous intelligence agencies, both U.S. and foreign, were aware that drug money was being used to support them. So we move to the final segment.
And after La Penca, it was quite the contrary.
Turn it up.
Antes de La Penca sí habían vuelos de El Salvador a la finca de John Hull.
Before La Penca, there were flights from El Salvador
para nosotros,
to the John Hull's farm.
para la gente pastora, digamos.
Para pastoras, people.
With weapons.
¿Perdón?
With weapons.
Con armas, sí.
With weapons.
And you needed help.
Nosotros necesitábamos ayuda y ojalá no solo los Estados Unidos, de todo el mundo lo hubiéramos querido.
And not only from the United States, we would have wanted this help from the whole world.
Pero sin condiciones.
But without any strings attached.
Now, what strings did Mr. Morales attach to it, if any?
Cuando Popo dejó el avión en manos de Morales, en mi impresión, el análisis que hicimos con Edén, había una cuerda, había un string, cuerda de string, ¿verdad?
Sí, sí. When Popo left the plane in the hands of Mr. Morales, in my opinion, there was a string there.
Nos estábamos prestando a que se hicieran cosas no políticas con un disfraz político.
We were allowing non-political things to be done with a political guise.
Cuando Popo habla de suministrar combustible a aviones que pasan para el norte cargados de droga, estamos poniendo condiciones.
When Popo talks about providing fuel for planes which go north with drugs, then there's strings attached.
Hay algo importante que se me quedaba.
Did Popo talk about that?
En esa reunión, que yo le llamo la reunión de la esquina, donde Popo, Tito y Octaviano me llamaron a mí, hablaron de eso.
At the corner meeting, when Popo, Tito, and Octaviano called me, they talked about that.
And specifically, what did they talk about?
Que se intentaba que aviones pasaran por la zona donde nosotros teníamos aeropuertos dentro de Nicaragua y que se les iba a dar combustible.
Planes go through the areas and we provide fuel for them.
What planes?
En ese tiempo teníamos el aeropuerto de La Penca, teníamos el aeropuerto de Atlanta.
At that time we had the La Penca airport and the Atlanta airport.
Hay una cosa.
What planes would go through and get fuel? What planes are you referring to? Drug planes?
Sí, aviones de droga.
Yes, drug planes.
Sí. Ahí quiero señalar algo muy
Was that
importante.
going to mean money for Popo Chamorro and the effort? Is that what the deal was? In exchange for the fuel, the planes came through and you got cash.
Sí.
It's my understanding that you also know some of the pilots who were flying drugs in and out.
Entiendo que usted conoce también algunos de los pilotos que traían droga.
Al único que conocí que supe que andaba en droga porque lo detuvieron aquí fue a Gerardo Durán.
The only one I knew who was flying drugs because they arrested him here was Gerardo Durán.
Y a José Guerra porque tiene una compañía de aerotaxis aquí.
And Jose Guerra, who has
Could we turn it up a little bit, please?
taxi here.
And they were flying out of the Hull Ranch, among other places, is that correct?
Tradúzcame la pregunta.
Y estaban volando a partir de la finca de John Hull, entre otros lugares.
Hasta donde yo sé, ellos usaban varias fincas de John Hull.
As far as I knew, they used several of John Hull's farms.
Después de La Penca usaban un lugar que se llamaba Mónico.
After La Penca, they used a place called Mónico.
Incluso hubo un accidente de un avión en la finca de John Hull.
There was an accident of a plane of John Hull in one of the
When you
flights.
say they used both for the drug flights and for the weapons flights?
No, por drogas no puedo decir porque no me consta.
I can't say for drugs because I would not know for certain.
Sí, yo sé que ellos volaban en general en suministro, ya lo que llevaban no podría decirle después de La Penca.
I knew that they flied in supplies generally But after La Penca, I don't know specifically.
Antes de la penca nunca se oyó hablar de droga.
Before La Penca, we never heard about drugs.
Now, you also said to Mr. Blum in the same conversation that the drug activity revolved around Eden Pastora. You knew that, but you couldn't do anything about it. Is that accurate?
En la conversación que tuvo con el señor Blum también dijo que que esa actividad con las drogas se llevaba a cabo alrededor de Eden Pastora, pero que usted no podía hacer nada. That he couldn't do anything about it?
Durán nos ayudó a nosotros cuando comenzamos la lucha.
Durán helped us when we started with the fight, with the struggle.
Como un muchacho a sueldo que cobraba por cada vuelo dentro de Costa Rica, jamás dentro de Nicaragua.
As a salaried man, he would charge for each flight that he would perform in Costa Rica, never in Nicaragua.
Por ejemplo, nosotros alquilábamos aviones medianos en Costa Rica, Durán lo llevaba a una pista.
For example, we would rent medium-sized airplanes here in Costa Rica, and Durán would take them to an airstrip.
Lo tomaba yo y hacía vuelos con arma hacia adentro de Nicaragua o cualquier clase de suministro.
And I would take it then and fly it into Nicaragua with weapons or whatever other kind of
Por desgracia, este tipo de trabajo por la liberación de un pueblo, este tipo de entrega, es muy parecido al que usa la gente del narcotráfico.
Unfortunately, this kind of activity, which is for the freeing of a people, is quite similar to the activities of the drug traffickers.
Yo entiendo que muchas de las conexiones de costarricenses, de mucha de la forma del trabajo que nosotros habíamos organizado para ayudar a la revolución que se estaba dando en el sur.
I understand that many of the connections, a lot of the work that we had done to help the Southern.
Probablemente ellos usaron las mismas para el asunto de la droga.
They might have used the same for the traffic of drugs.
The same what?
¿Las mismas qué?
Probablemente las mismas pistas, conexiones con amistades que le podían decir de que lo que llegaba allí eran armas para Eden Pastora y probablemente eran drogas para los Estados Unidos.
The same
no sé para qué
connections, the
lugar.
same airstrips, the same people, and maybe they said that it was weapons for the Pastora and it was actually drugs that would later on go to the United States or something like that.
But you have already confirmed privately, and I would like you to state now,
Pero usted ya ha confirmado en privado y quisiera que declarara ahora,
as others have,
como lo han hecho otros,
that narcotics trafficking became confused in the efforts
que el
to support anti-Sandinista efforts.
que el tráfico de narcóticos de alguna manera se confundió con los esfuerzos por apoyar los esfuerzos
Is that accurate?
sandinistas. ¿Es eso correcto?
Indiscutiblemente.
Undoubtedly.
Aprovecharon el sentimiento anticomunista que existe en Centroamérica, en Costa Rica, en El Salvador, en Honduras, en Guatemala, en Panamá.
They took advantage of the anti-communist sentiment which exists in Central America, in Honduras, in Salvador, in Costa Rica, in Panama.
Lo usaron para el narcotráfico, indiscutiblemente. Engañaron a la gente.
And they undoubtedly used it for drug trafficking. They fooled people.
You know this of your personal knowledge, correct?
Y usted tiene conocimiento personal de esto, ¿es cierto?
Es correcto.
Yes.
He was from Estelí, but
Que
first he'd like to clarify to Jack
Como consecuencia de la experiencia que yo tuve en todo esto,
that as a consequence of the experience that I had in all this,
especialmente a fines de 84, principios de 85,
especially towards the end of 84, beginning of 85,
donde agentes oficiales de la CIA en Costa Rica,
where agents of the CIA here in Costa Rica,
donde un agente de la CIA en los Estados Unidos le dijo a Pedro Joaquín Chamorro,
where an agent of the CIA in the United States told Pedro Joaquín Chamorro,
donde un agente de la CIA en los Estados Unidos le dijo a Arturo Cruz,
where an agent of the CIA in the United States told Arturo Cruz
de que yo estaba involucrado en droga.
that I was involved in drugs,
Yo me volví prácticamente un investigador,
I practically turned into an investigator.
porque consideré que era un ataque eminentemente político
Because I thought that it was,
y quise llegar al fondo del asunto.
it was basically a political attack, and I wanted to get to the bottom of it.
Y esa es la razón por la que conozco muchos nombres y tengo mucha información porque la he estudiado y la he recabado.
That's the reason why I have so many names and a lot of information, because I've looked into it.
What did you find out as you looked into it? What did you discover about drug trafficking among these people?
Yo diría que concurrieron dos cosas, Jack.
I would say that two things happened.
Por un lado, traficantes que se acercaron a agrupaciones políticas
On the one hand,
como ARDE,
drug traffickers that approached political groups like ARDE,
tratando de hacer tratos que le dieran un cierto camuflaje, una cierta cobertura a su actividad.
trying to make deals that would somehow camouflage or cover up their activities.
Por un lado. Por el otro lado,
On the one hand. And on the
creo que hubo personas de la Agencia Central de Inteligencia Americana
On the other hand, I believe that there were people from the Central Intelligence Agency
que le tendieron trampas a algunos compañeros nuestros muy débiles ideológicamente,
that they set up traps for some of our ideological colleagues who were
que les
ideologically weak,
excitaron su vanidad,
that got them excited or with
que les prometieron que si se quitaba Pastora ellos iban a ser los jefes.
that maybe were promised that if Pastora was removed, they would end up being the leaders.
Recall that when we talked, you expressed to me concern in retrospect that you had dealt with Morales. And you mentioned to me that at the time you justified it in your own mind, and I wonder if you could share with us exactly what it was you were thinking about when you realized he was a drug trafficker and continued to deal with him.
Well, to be absolutely honest with you, never entered into my mind, of course, having anything to do with the business. But I was thinking in terms of the security of my country. I mean, the type of fight we are against is not just against the communists. It's against the people that oppose Reagan. My brother said once in the Washington Post, the day that President Reagan said that he was a Contra, we just about lost the battle. You know, I mean, so we have had to fight in all different type of fronts. And yes, I'm very concerned because I hate what's happened to me, to be absolutely honest. But I like to read history books. I know when the security of the United States has been in danger, you have used some type of people like that. I remember Mr. Luciano before the invasion of Sicily. And even Mr. Stalin, I mean, there's no comparison between these people and Stalin. But you thought about the security of the United States, it was more important to have some type of arrangement with Mr. Stalin against Hitler. That doesn't justify, I'm not trying to say that. But at the moment, I just didn't enter my mind that I would have become involved in such a mess, you know, because it never entered my mind doing any type of business. If I was going to do any business with anyone, I would never do it through ARDE, because ARDE was absolutely checked 100% by the Sandinistas, by the CIA. They knew exactly what everybody was doing there, by the Costa Ricans, by the Israelis. There are at least maybe about a dozen of intelligence agencies here in Costa Rica. And everybody was after ARDE, which was the only operational here from Costa Rica. So, I mean, just for logic, you know, never. Of course, it's not the same to see Pastora or Pope or other ones have to go. I went a couple of times inside of Nicaragua and I saw the people there. I mean, young kids, I mean, 15, 16 years old. I mean, they were carrying 30 or 40 rounds of ammunition. Against the Sandinistas, they carried an average of 800 rounds. And all the firepower and everything. And that's why I did it. And, you know, I'm not proud, but that's the reason.
In effect, I mean, I hear you saying it was a very conscious kind of reasoning process that you went through. It was one that was based on need, and you said, we need the money, and therefore we're willing to take it from George Morales or from anybody else. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. let me add a little bit. Not only the troops operating in the field, they have to be based in a large amount of supporters. Now, the troops, you can move them from one place to another, and they have at least 30 or 40 rounds for defense. What do you do with the campesinos then?
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Cesar, and I don't want to get overly moralistic here or something, but I want to ask you the question because you talk about your need and the need to take money from where it was necessary in order to support your effort, correct?
Right.
What happens if the results of the taking of that money are that more kids die on the streets of American cities because they take drugs?
That's a different story. I was never involved in drug trafficking.
No, I know that. I understand that.
You were never involved in murder, and you became a partner with Stalin, and he murdered millions of people in there. I am totally against the drug trafficking.
But the money that comes from it can do anything it wants.
No, sir. Like I say, I'm not proud of that. But just didn't have any choice. I mean, the U.S. Congress didn't give us any choice. And they got these people into a war. These people went inside of Nicaragua, 80 miles inside. They have thousands of supporters, campesinos there, helping them, feeding them. Now, when those people retreat, those campesinos were murdered by the Sandinistas. I don't agree with either thing, but that's the reality of life.
Well, I think the testimony obviously speaks for itself and speaks pretty powerfully. I personally liked Octaviano Cesar and respect him in many ways. I think he's a very committed person. But obviously, as he himself said, that doesn't excuse what was done. We are going to recess. We will come back, and Mr. George Morales will testify when we return, and we will pick this up at 2:30. We're recessed till 2:30. Minutes long. After each segment, I'll give a brief narration which I hope clarifies the chain of events as they unfold. While these tapes do tell a clear story that documents some of the allegations made, there are some contradictions. For example, each of the witnesses denied personally smuggling narcotics, and 2 out of the 3 point their fingers at one of the other as a smuggler. We will be making copies of this edited videotape available to broadcast media after the hearing, and in addition, the full 9 hours of video deposition will be made available for anybody who wishes to see them. My staff has tried to create a tape that shows the contradictions as well as the other portions so that these are balanced. And in the first segment, you will simply be introduced to the individuals and learn what their role was in the Southern Front organization. If we could begin the tape. This is Senator Kerry, and we are going to take a deposition of Mr. Octaviano Cesar here in San Jose, Costa Rica. And I'd like to ask Ms. Leslie Rowe, who is a consul here in San Jose, who is empowered to deliver an oath, to do so to our witness. Thank you.
Cesar, could you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, in answer to the several interrogatories and cross-interrogatories now to be put to you? Thank you.
Let me remind people that the evidence here with respect to narcotics and the private aid network or the Contras is cumulative, and that what we have heard here this morning is not the beginning. Previously, this committee has heard testimony from General Paul Gorman, the United States Army Southern Commander at one period of time, who said in his testimony, quote, "There were fairly sizable marijuana operations on the southern front of Nicaragua, some involving the Contras, some not." Mr. Gorman noted that if one wants to organize an armed resistance or an armed undertaking for any purpose, the easy place to get the money and the easier places to get the guns are in the drug world. That was by way of introduction to the problem. We have had testimony from Jose Blandón in the course of his testimony on Noriega. And Mr. Blandón testified to the shipment of cocaine from the, quote, Cali cartel that was diverted to the farm of John Hull. We've heard further testimony regarding that here this morning. Mr. Blandón also testified that Sebastian Gonzalez, who was a Contra working with Eden Pastora on the southern front, became a drug smuggler. In addition, we heard from Noriega's former pilot, Floyd Carlton, who is now convicted on federal drug charges. He is in the Witness Federal Protection Program, and he testified to Alfredo Caballero's involvement in helping the Contras and narcotics trafficking. He also confirmed the Cali cartel story with respect to Mr. John Hull. In addition, we've heard from Ramon Milian Rodriguez in considerable detail about his involvement with Mr. George Morales with his setting up the laundering of money and so forth. There is other evidence in addition to that, but I simply want the record to show the cumulative aspects of what has been building here. At this point in time, we're going to look at 3 videotaped depositions, and we're only going to see a portion of them. On October 30th of last year, I traveled to Costa Rica with members of my personal staff and the Foreign Relations Committee staff, including Jack Blum, Special Counsel to the Committee. On Saturday, the 31st of October, we conducted depositions of 3 Nicaraguans living in exile: Octaviano Cesar, Marcus Aguado, and Carol Prado. These 3 individuals were all members of ARDE, the Contra force commanded by Eden Pastora that operated in the southern part of Nicaragua from 1982 to 1986. Octaviano Cesar, is the brother of Alfredo Cesar, who is one of the current 7-member directorship of the main Contra organization. We videoed those depositions, each of which was about 3 hours long. The depositions were given under oath. Each person discussed a wide range of issues, ranging from the funding of ARDE to weapons shipments to drug trafficking. Cesar, Aguado, and Prado will all corroborate certain portions of testimony that you have heard thus far. These are, as I said, edited segments. The story that they tell is a very complicated one, as some have learned that all of this is complicated. We've tried to simplify it as much as possible by dividing the video into 4 segments, each segment approximately 10 minutes.